I'm Angela Odusanya, the creator of the Amelia's Loose Part Art book series, and this is the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Angela Odusanya about publishing children's picture books in the Angela's Loose Part Art series. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Angela is a passionate Ontario certified teacher and registered early childhood educator with over 22 years of experience. She's dedicated to encouraging children's natural curiosity, fostering their creativity, and nurturing their love of play. Angela holds a diploma in early childhood education for both Sheridan College and Humber College, an honors Bachelor of Applied Science and Early Childhood Studies degree from the University of Guelph, and a Master of Teaching degree from the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. As a result, her sound understanding of all things child development shine through in everything she does. It was her years of experience in the classroom that inspired her to publish her first book, Amelia's Loose Part Art, a story that encourages children to be curious about the world around them and embrace their unique creativity and interests. The illustrator for this series is Dileema Medonza. Amelia's Loose Part Art, A Day at the Beach, tells the story of Amelia, who is a resourceful young artist who creates art with everything around her. When her parents take her to the beach, loose part art is all she plans to do. However, she finds herself solving problems with loose parts instead. Will she make any art before the day is done? Join Amelia as she discovers new loose parts and new ways to use them. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Angela Odusanya about publishing children's picture books and the Amelia's Loose Part Art series. So, Angela Odusanya, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. Before I get going with all the questions, I would like to know, what was the first comic book that you read?
So, my first memory of reading a comic book would have to be Archie comics. My grandmother used to keep a lot of them in the house, and I remember I used to love reading the Archie comics.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people get their start with Archie, that's for sure. But I'm wondering, as a children's book publisher, wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
I think the students that I work with have been my biggest inspiration for wanting to write. A lot of my ideas for what would make a good children's book have come from direct interactions or situations that have occurred in the classroom or things that children have said or have done with different toys and materials put in front of them.
That's great. Great inspiration for sure. Now, we're here talking about the latest book in your series, Amelia's Loose Part Art. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about it, maybe, why you created it in the first place and what's it all about?
Sure. So Amelia's Loose Part Art is actually my series. So the very first book is titled Amelia's Loose Part Art. My second book is Amelia's Loose Part Art, A Day at the Beach. My stories are all about inspiring creativity in kids, helping them to be resourceful about the things that are in their environment around them and how they can tap into those resources to help them solve everyday problems throughout their play. So the way that I have situated this is around loose parts. And loose parts are basically anything in a child's environment that they can use to play, whether that's rocks and sticks and shells or buttons and feathers. And so that's what sort of they learn in the first book, how to find these small objects in their environment and use them for art specifically is what Amelia's Loose Part Art is focused on. And then in the new book, what she's doing is expanding from there. So she's realizing that not only are rocks and sticks and pine cones and seashells loose parts, but so are sand, water, Play-Doh, other sensory items that actually add depth to her play. So now she can build 3D structures. She can mix things together like mud. So she's expanding her understanding of what loose parts are And she's also expanding her idea of what art is. Because before that, art was like drawing pictures or making these loose part art pictures. Now she's realizing that 3D creations are also forms of art.
Ah, very good. That's terrific. Now, I was looking at your bio online, and you've got some tremendous degrees in education, various aspects here in Ontario. And I wanted to ask you, based on that, why did you create this book? Did you feel there was a need, something that was lacking in the educational space?
100%. I've been doing what I kind of call loose part art with students for well over a decade. And it really was a very simple thing. It was just a collection of items placed on a table for students to explore. And they did. And they so naturally took these materials and used them in purposeful ways. They had ideas, they were, testing theories, figuring things out, and creating these beautiful works of art. And then all of a sudden, as time went on, I'd be doing the same thing. And instead, students were throwing them, eating them, just piling them and making, I don't even want to say a big mess because there is purpose in even that form of play. But it wasn't quite the same. And it was still kindergarten age students. And I wanted a book that I could read. I'm big on reading books, is what we call our minds on. Just that pre-introduction to any lesson or activity or experience we're going to engage in. And I couldn't find one. I could not find a book that would really help model what I was hoping to get from my students. So I had this idea that I would write this book, and I probably sat on it for a good 5 years before I really sat down and penned it out. It's a trend that I've noticed, and a lot of these skills are on the decline in the classroom. Creativity is on a decline, a willingness to try, feeling capable. I find a lot of kids just from such a young age, they feel that they can't. They don't want to even try. They don't want to make a mistake. There's a fear there, and all of that limits their learning and their growth.
Oh my. Okay. Well, I'm glad you came up with a solution. Hopefully it's being deployed properly. Yeah, and your books can help with that. I want to switch gears a wee bit. You are the author of these books, but you have worked with a collaborator to do the artwork. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about who that is and how you found that person.
Yeah, so I was able to write a book. I have loved writing all of my life, and I've experimented with writing children's books over the years. And now that I had a story that I was really certain was worth taking to the next step, after the editor phase, I needed an illustrator because that is not in my in my skill set. So I started researching, looking at portfolios online, trying to find the right style. And my the form of play I'm calling on kids to engage in is kind of coined as old school, old school play. And so I wasn't really attracted to some of these new types of illustrations that, are very 3D, or even sometimes it was clearly AI. That was not what I was looking for. So I was so happy when I found Dileema's portfolio, and she had really bright, colorful, hand-drawn illustrations that just felt like it matched the direction and the era of my books, And she was just heaven sent. It was her very first full illustration book as well. It was my first book. And so we were both just all in, wanting to do whatever it took to make the book everything that I envisioned for it to be. And she was just a gem to work with, really. So I feel so blessed to have found her.
That's great. That's great. Now, if I understand correctly, Dileema is from Sri Lanka. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So how did the process go for creation on the opposite side of the world?
Right? It's such a cool thing. I love sharing that fact. I do a lot of school visits, and it's just something I love telling kids because I want them to realize that, our potential to collaborate, it's not limited to who's in front of our face necessarily. It was just a coincidence. That's where she happened to be from. I was nervous about it at first. I was nervous she hadn't done a full book before. I was nervous about her location, but what I asked for was a Zoom meeting. So we met on Zoom. We talked face to face in that way. I explained my vision. She told me more about herself, and what worked well for us was that because she was also in a position of learning and I was also in a position of learning, we would just share our learning with each other. I would share my ideas. She took corrections so well. Like there was times when, it wasn't quite what I was looking for. Sometimes I would do a rough sketch of what I was picturing to kind of help her. And what's incredible is after that first book, she's probably done, I don't know, 15 more since because she's had so many people contact her after seeing my book that by the time I came around with book two, it was like a completely different experience. Like she had developed so many skills and she's definitely establishing herself as a stronger illustrator. So it was just such a pleasure to work with her again, like for the second book, just to see her growth and, way less input needed from me, which was great to give her that, that room to be creative on her own.
That's great. That's always a good thing when you gel with the collaborator. That's tremendous. I want to talk a little bit more about your publishing process as an independent creator. What is the process that you go through to publish your books?
So for my very first one, it was a lot of reading and I felt like I was in one of those choose your own adventure books. It was like every crossroad, you sort of had to make some decision that would take you on a new path to figure out which type of journey you're going to go on. So in my research, I would just make decisions. So I decided early on, I didn't want to publish on Amazon, for example. I knew early on I didn't want to seek out traditional publishing. So I decided to create my own publishing company. That's sort of what you do with self-publishing. Sometimes you do it just as an imprint, and sometimes you actually take other authors on. That's not what I'm doing. It's just for myself. So my process sort of is I write my books. When I edit as much as I can, and I don't know if my edits are now improving the book or making it worse, that's sort of when I bring in the professional editor to get, some clarity and get it where it's going. And then once I feel happy with the story and I feel the manuscript's complete, then I move on to Dileema. We do our illustration piece. And then I work with a book designer out of the States, actually. We met in an author group and she was very helpful to me along the way. And so I ended up hiring her to help me with the design of the book, making it look pretty and nice and very professional. And then after that, it goes to the printer. And then eventually, thousands of books show up at my house.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah, you
Yeah,
always like to see a fresh book and the nice smell that it comes off of it. That's always fun.
absolutely.
So we met up recently at a community event in Bolton where you had a table and you were showcasing your books. I wanted to ask you, how'd that event go for you?
That was definitely one of our top events. That was an incredibly well-organized event. The people in the community obviously came out. As you saw there was thousands of people, and they were really there to support local and shop at the vendor market. And just sharing that story about why I wrote these books and how it can help children, I think resonated with people. And the beach book, with summer around the corner, it was very timely for that one to do very well as well. So that market was fantastic. I'm definitely hopeful to be there again next year.
Great. Do you have any other plans coming up for promoting yourself and your books?
So I'm kind of on a bit of I don't want to say I'm on a break because that's definitely not quite honest, but I'm definitely on a break of getting out there for July. And we'll be at a few Indigo locations at the end of August. I'm going to be at Square One. I'm going to be at Erin Mills locations at the end of August. And then I think I'm also at Square One again in September.
Oh, very good. So I've got to ask you, now that we were talking about your books, I'm wondering what's next in the series for Amelia's Loose Part Art. Can you talk about something that's coming up in the future?
Absolutely. So that's sort of what I'm doing now. When I said I'm not quite on a break, it is the next book of this series is going to be coming out next year. So in order for that to happen, that means right now the story is being worked on. At this moment, it is in the hands of my editor. We've done a round back and forth together already, and we have just a little bit more to go. My big issue always is word count. So trying to maintain the integrity of the story, but bring the word count down is sort of the goal at the moment. So I'll be working on that with her for the next few weeks. And then Dileema's starting character design for the new book. Obviously, it's Amelia, but she'll have a different outfit. And there's a few other characters that are joining her in this one. And then August will be a lot of back and forth with Dileema with the illustrations.
Very good. With everything you have on the go today and in the future, where do you recommend people go online to find out more about you and buy your books?
So you can always go to my website, which is angelaodusanya.com, or follow me on Instagram at Angela Odusanya. And my books are available on Amazon, select Indigo locations, which are listed on my website and on my website itself.
Very good. Well, Angela, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
If you have children at home, try to prioritize open-ended play. Be mindful of the materials you're putting in front of them and kind of question, is this encouraging creativity and innovation in my child, or is it more of a following instruction activity? And try to get more of that open-ended play in front of them so that they are forced to think and be creative.
Thanks to Angela for the chat. You can discover more about Angela online at angelaodusanya.com and on Instagram.com at Instagram.com/Angela Odusanya. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to full conversations and discover more from creators on making comic books and graphic novels. I also encourage you to subscribe via the website so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites, and you're welcome to send any and all feedback to john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2025.